And for those who enjoy this channel and would love to support us financially, please feel free to hit that donate link. We'd greatly appreciate it. God bless.
Awesome. Okay. It looks like we're live. We're here. Another really exciting debate. I'm really looking forward to this one. Both these gentlemen have been here before. Bill Morgan, of course, and David here, who goes by Kakarot on YouTube. Please check both of their channels out. We've got a formal debate tonight. 12-minute openings followed by 6-minute rebuttals. We're going to have a couple cross-examination rounds, a closing, and a question and answer. Therefore, to everybody in the audience, make sure you tag myself or praise I am that I am, and we will get to as many questions as we can. We always look forward to that part. So I wanted to thank both debaters tonight for giving us their time. Before we get into the openings, though, I always like the debaters to kind of give a brief introduction as to who they are, what they're doing on their channels. Yeah, just to break the ice, why don't we start with Bill? Thanks for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. I'm a former atheist when they taught me evolution when I was 14, and science made me realize that we did not evolve from apes and caused me to seek God. So I'm very passionate about this subject. And I've been an engineer for 37 years and absolutely love science and look forward to any comments or questions. My YouTube channel is really clever. It's Bill Morgan, if anybody wants to check out some debates. But it's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here with you, David.
Well, it's an honor to be the host and your moderator tonight. Bill, you've been here a number of times. Everybody loves you on this channel. You always put on a good show, so we appreciate you giving us your time. Why don't we hand it over to David? David, as well, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much. Standing in, Bill, it's great to meet you. Everybody on here is so darn friendly for having me on, so really enjoy talking with y'all. Yeah, I'm actually a, my name is on YouTube is Kakarot, Goku, or, the Dragon Ball character, for those of you who don't know, well, you'll figure out who that is. Yeah, I'm actually in grad school right now. I'm getting my MBA with a concentration in finance. So I have no science background, but I still do find this topic pretty interesting. So, yeah.
Well, you've been here 2 times before, David, and like I said, Bill's been here many times. You both are highly intelligent individuals, so I know this is going to be a really fun, memorable, and engaging debate. So enough for me. Why don't we get right into the openings? I believe we agreed. My apologies. Who is starting again? And then okay, you've got Brother Bill is going to start. Whenever you're comfortable, Bill, I'm not going to start on your first word. Don't worry. Whenever you're ready, you just let me know and I'll start the clock.
Okay. Praise has my slides. You understand? Oh, do I click on something?
Yeah. Oh, you're ready to go.
All right. Should I open my?
Yeah, your presentation. Yeah.
Got it. All right, so you guys can see that?
Yeah. Yes, I can see
Okay.
it.
All right, here I go. Well, once again, it's a pleasure to be here. My YouTube channel is Bill Morgan. You can check it out. So we are debating on how did we get here? A very, very important question. Creation or evolution? Somehow we're here. How did we get here? Now, suppose David and I were best friends. And suppose we're married. I just found out he's not, but just imagine that you are. So David and I, we take our wives to a party and we're having a great time. There he is dancing. There I am dancing. Suppose the house that we go to has 2 rooms, room A and room Z. Now we are partying in room A. There's also a party going in room Z, but we're not allowed to go into room Z. So David and I spend the whole night in room A with our lovely wives. The next day, since we're good buddies, we're having a friendly debate about the party. Now, would we be able to more effectively debate what went on in room A or in room Z? In room A, we were there. We were observing things. Room Z is a mystery. We really don't know what went on in room Z. We could see what happened in room A, but in room Z, we're at a liability. We have to rely on other people to tell us what went on in room Z. So we sure have a less level of confidence of what happened in room Z. So, creation versus evolution. Which side, creation or evolution, has evidence that we can see today in 2020 for ourselves? I propose it is creation. I believe creation is in room A. Creation makes predictions. Creation predicts, apes make apes. I gotta hide that. People make people. This is not real high-tech science. Giraffes make giraffes. Apes make apes, people make people, giraffes make giraffes is what we observe, what we see with our eyes. Every living organism is evidence for the creation model. Trillions of things became living today, and they all support the creation model. There are 8 billion people on Earth. What do we observe? They have human parents, human grandparents, human great-grandparents, human great-great-grandparents. Mitochondrial DNA teach all they have is human ancestors. When they have kids, they have humans. The giraffes are making giraffes, etc. There's 1 million apes on Earth. What do we observe? Their parents are apes. Their grandparents are apes. Great-grandparents are apes. These are all mountains of evidence for creation. So we observe 8 billion people, 1 million apes, 0 living ape men. The evolutionist believes and teaches that there were ape men that were not human. Where are they? They are not observed. They are outside of observation. Therefore, it is not science. It is a faith belief. People make people, apes make apes is supported by biochemistry and genetics. That's hardcore science. Genetics is the best friend for creation and a nightmare for the evolutionist. Now, if you believe bacteria plus time plus mutations equals humans, which is a theory of evolution, you're contradicting biochemistry and genetics. You can believe it if you want, but don't call it science and don't teach it as science. Now, when I was 14 years old, I was a believer. I was going to church. My teacher put this on the wall and taught the class that we had ape-like ancestors. I believed it and believed the Bible to be a scientific joke and claimed to be an atheist for 12 years. So this topic's important to me. What are these? Dramatic pause. Cartoon drawings. This is not scientific evidence. These are a bunch of drawings. The schools teach this. They'll show kids drawings and tell stories. I like to say the theory of evolution is nothing but stories and drawings. It's not observational science. But the schools don't teach the details of the fossils. Now, the schools should tell the students what the actual fossils were. I didn't learn this until I was 26 years old, and I dug into it, and I felt lied to and ripped off that the schools showed me great drawings, but didn't tell me about lousy fossils. Question of the day. Why do the textbooks only show drawings as evidence for the theory of evolution instead of photographs? We know why. There's nothing to photograph. Let's talk about Lucy, one of their most famous and favorite fossils. Many people love Lucy. I love the TV show. Let's talk about this organism. Let's look at the details as objectively as we can. In Africa, they found fossils of a very ape-like animal. Ape skull, ape jaw, ape teeth. But the amazing thing, they said, was the knee and hip indicated it could walk on 2 legs and walk upright. This is the main evidence that I hear for people believing in the theory of evolution. Well, this animal is alive today. It's called bonobo. What's it doing? It's playing air guitar on its mother's back and standing on 2 legs. Here's an adult bonobo. What's it doing? Gardening and walking on 2 legs. If this beautiful animal were buried in a violent flood, people could dig it up and say, wow, look at that ape arm, ape hand, ape skull. It could walk on two legs. It's a transition between man and ape. No, it isn't. It's 100% ape. Where does it live? Africa, right where they found Lucy. Everything about bonobo is the same as Lucy. I propose Lucy is nothing but an ape that could walk upright, and they're alive today, called bonobo. That's pretty self-explanatory. That's genetics, biochemistry, taxonomy, zoology, paleontology. Apes make apes. Now, evolutionists find bits and pieces of fossils, they make drawings, and they argue that humans have ape-like ancestors. Is this evidence in room Z or room A? It's not observed evidence. Many people believe it because they've only heard that it is true. I encourage everybody, trust your eyes. Look at what you see. You do not see these transitional forms, only drawings in books. How did life originate? I would like to ask David. What do we observe? What do we see? Life only comes from life. Bacteria, hummingbirds, snakes, dogs, every birth, or all the life we see only comes from previous life. The atheist worldview believes that chemicals mixed together with energy and became living. You can believe that if you want, but don't call it science. Don't teach it as science because of the cell theory and the law of biogenesis that teach life only comes from life. How did matter and energy originate? A nightmare question for a non-believer. What do we see? Once again, science is all about observing. Matter and energy does not appear from nothing by natural means. This is the first law of thermodynamics. This is not religious thinking. Matter and energy is neither created nor destroyed. Every branch of science, as I see it and understand it, supports creation. What is the best reason to believe in God? Design. Which one of these is the result of design? I would say all of them. Now, an atheist, and I have no idea if David is an atheist or not, the atheist would say, well, the paperclip, the staple, and the pencil are designs, but not the nervous system of a dog. Well, I believe they're all the result of design, and they all need a designer. I believe in God. I'm not ashamed to say that. But God doesn't make things. God makes systems. This dog is a system. The body is a system. The nervous system is a system. The brain is a system. The molecules, or the cells in the brain are a system. The molecules are a system, and so are the atoms a system. Systems are where you need many, many, many components to work, or nothing works. Living things are a house of cards. If the nervous system fails on the dog, the whole dog fails. If the digestive system fails, the whole dog fails. Okay? Living systems cannot get there by evolution. Sorry about the spelling. Evolution is a step-by-step process. It's not going to be able to make a living system. Okay? Quick question. Could 3 billion brilliant engineers and scientists build and design a dog from scratch? Dogs are systems. Now, I like to do this based on people's last names. I pick out the system that they have to design. They're in charge. So I understand David's last name begins with a B. He's in charge of the dog's breathing system. Let's talk about it real quick. 80% of the air of a dog breathes goes to its lungs. Where does the other 20% go? To something called the olfactory recess. That's where air goes for the dog to have an amazing sense of smell. The special part of the dog body has 500 million sensor cells in the olfactory recess, and you can see the pattern there. Every nerve is connected, or the nerves are connected to these cells and sends a message to the brain. This is an amazing electrical engineering system that humans could never design. There's a zoomed in picture of the matrix for the dog's sensory cells. Design? Absolutely, that's a design. A dog's sense of smell, you got to collect data. You got to transport the data. You got to process the data. You got to store the data. This is a control system with feedback. This is an amazing engineering system, and it can happen by chance. It can happen by a step-by-step process. So we could ask this dog, is that design or chance? Pit bulls are very smart. That's a design that would require a designer. The little slits on the side of a dog's nose, design or chance. Everybody watching this debate, inhale 15 times as fast as you can. You're going to pass out. As a human, you can only inhale or exhale at the same time. God designed the dog so it can inhale in the middle of its nose and exhale out the side at the same time. That's why they can sniff the entire kitchen floor without taking a break. Inhale and exhale at the same time. Beautiful designed system. And you can ask that pit bull as well.
Sorry to interrupt, Bill. You're just at about the 11-minute mark. And take your time. Whatever extra time you use, we'll make sure we give to David. I don't want to rush you.
Okay, I'm almost there. Look at that beautiful design. Every tooth, every cell, every molecule. Beautiful design. Nature, time, chance, natural selection, mutation cannot make systems. That's a beautiful design. Now, evolutionists bow before and put their faith in time and chance. Oh, it took billions and billions of years. Well, they can put their faith there if they want. Creationists bow and put their faith in a God that has the ability to design all these beautiful things. God has an IQ of infinity, way beyond our comprehension. I'm by far not the best engineer in the world, but I see God's engineering and just marvel. Time and chance has an IQ of 0. So people have to decide, do they think the dog's breathing system, the dog's teeth, the human eye is the result of a designer with an IQ of infinity or a designer with an IQ of 0? Creation versus evolution, things we can see. We can see apes making apes, people making people. That's genetics and biochemistry. We can see that life only comes from life, the cell theory and the law of biogenesis. We can see that matter and energy does not poof from nothing. And we can see design. We're smart enough to know a design when we see one. Dog noses, olfactory recess, dog brains, etc. Creation versus evolution, these are things we don't see. We don't see transitional forms. We don't see ape men. We don't see bird lizards. We don't see whale ancestors. We see drawings of them. We hear stories, but we don't observe them. I say they're in room Z and they don't exist. We don't see life arising from non-life. We don't see matter and energy coming from nothing. And time, nature, and chance cannot make a dog nose, a dog mouth, or a dog brain. The word evolution means change. People are taller. They're still people. You can breed dogs. They're still dogs. The flu virus mutates. It's still a flu virus. This is called microevolution. These are little changes. Dogs are still dogs. People are people. And the flu virus is still a flu virus. Macroevolution is the belief that people have bacteria ancestors. Dogs have bacteria ancestors. Flu viruses, not observed. It falsifies. It's falsified by biochemistry and genetics. So microevolution is true. You are taller than your great-great-great-grandpa, but your ancient grandpa was not bacteria. Thank you. And thanks for the extra time.
No problem. You just went over 14 minutes. Time flew by. Of course, David, you get the same amount of time. Any time you don't use, though, of course, we'll throw in either the cross-exam rounds or the question and answer. And Bill, great presentation. I appreciate all the work you put into your openings. I know it takes time putting these things together, so I appreciate it. Very clear and concise, and love the visuals. So over to you, David. Whenever you're ready, just let me know, and I'll start the timer. If you need to screen share, we can do that as well.
Cool. Can you see?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Can y'all see my stuff? All right. Cool. And it's taking forever to load. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No problem, David. Take your time. We've got all the time in the world.
Thank you. Yeah. Come on. Please. And I don't know what is taking so long. I'm so sorry.
And I'm not sure if it's just a brief audio issue there. I heard some brief echoing or background noise, maybe from your end there, David. I don't hear it anymore. It's kind of like a ringing noise, but just be.
Oh,
Sounds good now, though.
Sorry. All right, cool. Are we there?
Yeah, you could reload if you want. Maybe it just has to reload or something. We can try that as well.
Yeah. Come on. I know, right? It's painful. Okay. All right, cool. So yeah, again, I apologize. I'm going to be using some of the, or actually all the slides that I used with my debates with Hove and with Nephilim Free. But I think they're still useful. So, and the first thing is listening to what Bill said about being an atheist. I want to be very clear that, in fact, I'm not an atheist myself. This is not a religious thing. Again, you do not have to choose between science and religion. You can have both. In fact, the Catholic Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church, the Anglican Church, the Methodist Church, they all openly accept evolution and just they explain how it's the physiology of how God, decides to bring about different life forms. And here are some scientists who themselves share the same views. There's Francis Collins and Robert Bacher and Ken Miller, and then there's many, many, many more. Just too long, too big of a list to name. I just brought up a few. So, and evolution, and specifically in the context of biology, it's just a change in genetic frequency in populations of organisms from one generation to another. So, what most people would call this microevolution. Most people would call it that, which I think Bill would accept. In fact, most creationists I have spoken with openly accept it. It's not that extraordinary. Again, microevolution, another example of that. And macroevolution is evolution at or above the level of species. So getting different varieties of cats or crocodilians is a good example of that. I would presume that all cats would be the same kind and all crocodilians would be the same kind in a creationist worldview. Of course, they're not all the same. You might get different opinions about that. But this is what biologists would define as macroevolution. So some, more evidence to start with the evidence, I feel that we should go to genetics because that's probably the most compelling. Again, life is built on DNA, and DNA codes for amino acids which make up proteins, and you'll find that the number of amino acid differences found between humans and other types of animals decrease as the more closer related the organism becomes. So we have more amino acid differences with like a bullfrog than we do with a rhesus macaque, which is not surprising since us and monkeys are both primates and we're both mammals. We're actually both monkeys. And I know you'll probably want to lynch me for saying that, but if you want to substitute the word anthropoid for monkey, we're both anthropoids because monkey is not really a scientific term. So, but that's another story. All right, so going to fossils, looking at Archaeopteryx, a good dinosaur to bird transition. Up here we have Compsognathus, and then in the middle Archaeopteryx, and then a modern chicken on the right. You can see it has the skeleton of a dinosaur, but it's also very bird-like. In fact, a lot of creationists will say that it's just a bird, even though it has those dinosaur traits, which is pretty interesting. So, and again, I actually do. I see where they're coming from because a lot of drawings or artist renderings do make it look just like a strange bird. But if you look at it from the skeleton, you'll see why it's a dinosaur as well. So, and Microraptor, another animal very similar to Archaeopteryx. It was a different species. It lived at a different time, but very similar. And Sinornithosaurus was another good dinosaur to bird transition. It lived alongside Microraptor, and it might have even been venomous, interestingly. And Caudipteryx is another one. It's a very bird-like dinosaur. Had feathers, and it had a long bony tail, but it also had a beak. So it was an interesting mix there. And looking at Lucy, we actually have found many skeletons, not just the one individual. And when I say we, I mean anthropologists and paleontologists. I'm not one of them. So, Lucy in the middle is so when he's talking about the bipedality of Lucy and how it walked on two legs, I remember Bill mentioned that there are some modern bonobos and chimpanzees that will occasionally walk on their two legs, but that's very rare. They don't do that all the time, or they don't do it very frequently. Whereas Lucy, her biomechanics regarding her pelvis and her femur were more like that of a modern human than they were with the chimpanzee or a bonobo. So then that indicates that they were at least mostly bipedal. So, and Homo habilis is another ape, or what we think of as ape, and ape to human transition. It's human, but their brains were a lot smaller than ours, and they had a large brow ridge, which those are particularly ape characteristics, or primitive ape characteristics. And then Homo erectus, that has an even larger brain than habilis. In fact, a lot of creationists will say that, depending on the specimen, they'll say that Java Man, for example, was just an ape, and other creationists will say that Java Man is just a human, which is a good indication that it's in transition. So, yeah. And Tiktaalik, when looking at a fish to tetrapod transition, this has many fish characteristics such as scales, fins, and it also had some of these earlier fish that we find in Devonian layers. They actually had lungs, which is pretty interesting. And it's reasonable to infer that Tiktaalik had lungs itself, even though they haven't directly found the lungs in them yet. But considering how earlier fish had them, it's reasonable to infer that. But as you can see, it's also very amphibious as well. So, and again, I think another compelling aspect is how we find certain fossils in certain layers. We don't find dinosaur and trilobite and mammoth remains mixed together, which is pretty interesting. It's in which evolution would account for. And we also date fossils radiometrically, and we do this by counting the ratio of parent isotopes to daughter isotopes, and the decay rates are constant. There's really no reason to think that they would change over time. And the reason that we are confident in the dating methods is because we use several different radioisotopes on the same specimen. So, like, for example, if you date a Mesozoic fossil and you use potassium, argon, rubidium, strontium, and uranium, lead, and you use all those three different methods on the same specimen, and they all give you the same answer, that's a pretty compelling. So, yeah, and that is it for the presentation. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
That again.
That's okay. Just on time. You did great. I think I thank you for the visuals as well. Like I said to Bill, takes time putting these presentations together. So I appreciate both your openings, clear, concise. I wrote a few things down, some points from Bill to consider from his opening for the rebuttal rounds and cross-examination. Bill gave observable evidence. Apes make apes, people make people. Humans have always produced humans. Bill suggested that there's no ape men and no transitionals that Bill says is outside of observation. He looked at biochemistry and genetics. Bill made a case for evolution being nothing more than stories, drawings, and illustrations. Gave a number of reasons why Lucy may not be a transitional species. Pointed to life only comes from life. Few good questions. How did matter and energy originate? Bill made some points on design and the need for a designer, as well as some examples of irreducible complexity. David pointed to some Christian theistic evolutionists, described evolution as changes in genetic frequencies, which is observable. Looked to crocodilians and cats as some examples of evolution at or above the species level. Which David pointed out biologists describe as or define as macroevolution. David pointed to DNA hierarchies and amino acids and cytochrome C, pointed to transitional forms such as Archaeopteryx and Microraptor, and a couple other dino to bird transitions. As for human evolution, David, you pointed to the Australopithecines such as Lucy, as well as some Homo transitions such as habilis and Homo erectus. And you looked at the fishapod Tiktaalik, as well as the ordering of the fossils in the geologic column and radiometric dating. So both of you brought up a lot of good points. I hope I covered that appropriately and kind of explained your positions accurately. But yeah, so I guess these are some of the points we can focus on in the rebuttal rounds and the cross-examination. So what I've got here is 6-minute rebuttals. We can start with you, Bill. For the rebuttal rounds, I'll have to be more strict on timing, and then we'll jump into cross-examination. So Bill, whenever you're ready.
All right. Let's see. Let me get the copyright. Okay, I'm going to go with the speed of light. Good presentation, but nothing but drawings and stories once again. Nothing living, nothing observed. Many, many things are assumed. So many transitional forms have been thrown in the garbage can over the years, and I believe today's will as well. It's not science if it's not observed. Now, his first slide, he talked about there's no contradiction between science and religion. Well, that's assuming that science is bacteria are the ancestors to humans. That is not science. That is a complete story unless it's observed. So there's no contradiction between God and science because science does not teach that people have bacterial ancestors. He talked about macroevolution was above the species. The creationists I know believe it's at the family level. Many people believe that a house cat could in vitro impregnate a tiger. So they're in the same family, they're in the same kind. Of course, we have more in common with an ape than a fish. We eat bananas, we have hair, we have skin. It would make sense that the proteins would be the same for those functions, but the differences are still enormous in a 3.2 billion base pair genome. The differences are in the hundreds of millions.
Sure.
Okay, let me get to a slide. I hope I don't eat up too much time. Archaeopteryx, many people say that it's a transition between birds and reptiles, but because of some of its traits, many, many evolutionists, Alan Fiducia, for example, teach that no, it is a bird. It is a bird, it is a strong flyer. So there's much debate about that. It's got feathers, it's got wings, it's got a beak, it's got perching feet. Many people believe it to be a bird. Many people call it a hoax, and these are evolutionists that call it that. Alan Fiducia, he says it is paleobabble. So now let's think. To go from reptile to bird, you got a lot of Grand Canyons to cross if you're an evolutionist. Legs had to become wings. Arms, or there's the leg, there's the wing. Scales had to become feathers. Huge difference. What's the difference between their bones? Solid bones of reptiles had to become hollow bones. Slow metabolism had become fast metabolism. This is an enormous difference. The differences between reptiles and birds are huge. Cold-blooded became warm-blooded. Because of time, I'm going to have to rip through those. Reptiles have very poor vision. Birds have excellent vision. Hind feet had to become perching feet. Tremendous differences. No evolution evidence for this. No observational evidence. And my favorite is the breathing system. Reptiles breathe in a bellows system like we do, in and out, in and out. Birds have the most cool breathing system in the world. Whether they inhale or they exhale, they have oxygen passing through their lungs. There's their lungs. There's a little valve here. When they inhale, that valve closes and pushes the air through the lungs. You see that? This is a pretty cool thing. When they exhale, a valve over here closes, so the air continues to go through the lungs from that air sac. I'll show it once again. They fill up the air sac, then when they exhale, that air comes out. Praise God, an amazing design. He has to admit, I showed pictures of bonobo walking on two legs. All humans do not have the same brain size. I'm sure there's a lot of gymnasts that are more intelligent than guys doing the shot put in the Olympics. It's very condescending, I think, to say brain size equates to intelligence. From my research, Java Man was a hoax, and many evolutionists have said it was a hoax. Tiktaalik, oops, 262, Tiktaalik. Well, whenever you see an article in the newspaper, no matter what you believe, look for the evidence. Don't just read the article. See what they actually found. This was in National Geographic in 2008. Ask yourself, what did they really find? First, is Tiktaalik living today? No. Are there thousands of fossils of them? No. Are there millions, maybe billions of fish today? Yes. Where's Tiktaalik? Well, he's in National Geographic and discussed. New York Times said it was a rebuttal to religious creationists. They were all excited. Yay, we can falsify creation. Well, let's see if the science really does falsify it. Okay? This is what they found. Let's take a deep breath here. Are you seriously going to buy into the theory of evolution for this beat-up, bashed fossil? That's the best you have? And what would be strong evidence that a fish became a land animal?
Just over a minute, Bill. Just over a minute.
Skull, legs, the respiratory system. There's their beaten up old jalopy of a fossil that people are hanging their hat on, and I hope they reconsider that. Is that really your best evidence? Well, many evolutionists call it a straightforward fish. They say, well, maybe the snout suggests a shift. Well, the ribs seem larger. It may mean it was able to support. They're guessing, they're speculating, and the fossil sure isn't telling them. Tiktaalik is a very weak fossil, and it should not be the poster boy for evolutionists. Okay? Fossils. There's trillions of fossils. Trillions. I've done this before. What do the fossils tell us? There's a fossil of a bat, the same today. According to evolution, no change in 52 million years. Ants haven't changed in 99 million years. Snakes haven't changed in 150 million years. Leaves haven't changed in 270 million. And dragonflies in 300 million years. No changes. Where's the evolution evidence? Follow your eyes. And my favorite, cyanobacteria, no change in 3.5 billion years. People, trust your eyes. There is no evidence for the theory of evolution. And if I ran over, I apologize.
No problem. No, these rounds fly by. Excellent rebuttal. Very informative there, Bill. And once again, thanks for the visuals. So this has been a great debate so far. Great openings. Great rebuttal there from you, Bill. And David, on to you, my good man. I'll put 6 minutes on the clock. Take your time.
All right. Thanks. All right. Thanks, Bill. Yeah, that was pretty interesting. I learned quite a bit. All right. So I'm just going to go from the beginning. Biologists, they define macroevolution as speciation, not at the family level. And even if they did, humans are still in the same taxonomic family as the other great apes. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, they define it as speciation. And regarding Alan Fiducia, I understand that he is one of 2 paleontologists, I believe, that is part of the Birds Are Not Dinosaurs group, I believe. Archaeopteryx, it's not just a bird. It had clearly dinosaur traits, like such as the long bony tail and the 3 fingers, and it had teeth with no beak. Again, those are traits that no modern bird alive has today. Those are all reptilian or dinosaur traits. And speaking of that, if you define reptile as like is something that is cold-blooded, then dinosaurs would not make that cut because they were most likely warm-blooded, especially the Maniraptoran dinosaurs, because sauropods and theropods, they all had hollow bones and air sacs, just like modern birds do today. And so that's just one reason why we think that they were warm-blooded. Also, if you're just taking dinosaurs out of the picture, if you compared the genetics of birds to that of crocodilians and lizards, you'll find that, you'll find that a crocodile has more genetic similarities with a bird than it does with a lizard. And in fact, birds and crocodilians, they both have 4-chambered hearts, whereas lizards and snakes have 3-chambered hearts. Then crocodilians, birds, they have hard-shelled eggs. Then lizards, they have leathery type of egg. So those are a few reasons, for a few interesting points. And regarding Java Man being a hoax, I don't know. I haven't seen any citation for that. I think what you're talking about are Piltdown Man and Nebraska Man. No?
No.
Java Man. I'm not aware of Java Man being a hoax. It's not saying it's not impossible. I just have to see a citation for that. So, yeah. The reason that animals like Tiktaalik are no longer alive is because when Tiktaalik first came about, there were no land vertebrates to compete with. And once the descendants of Tiktaalik came about, they would be better adapted for life on land. And once those creatures started proliferating, they would eventually outcompete their less adapted cousins or ancestors or whatever. All the Tiktaaliks that would have still been around would have been eliminated by their better equipped descendants. And fossils, and I remember you talking about fossil snakes and how they didn't change. Well, there have been fossil snakes with legs, so with relatively small legs, which no snake has alive today. Although there are some pythons that have spurs at the near their tail, which those are actually remnants from the past. So, yeah. What else do I got? Is there anything that I missed? I'm sorry. And when you said that I showed nothing but drawings, I don't think fossils are drawings. I mean, they're real things. I mean, that people have dug up. They're pretty real. So, yeah. Cool. And that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you there, David. You as well. Excellent rebuttal. Very informative. Both of you guys, you can tell you've prepared hard for this. So I appreciate it. The audience is having a good time. I do want to ask the audience for question and answers. Please tag myself or praise. We'll save them for for afterwards. So now we're going into, and actually you finished with just over a minute left, which is fine, David. We'll just toss it into, like I said, either one of the cross-examination rounds or the Q&A. So I appreciate that. Yeah, why don't we get right into my favorite part, the cross-examination. We'll keep it organic, free-flowing. I've got 7-minute rounds that we'll do where, so for example, if Bill wants to start, he'll ask you questions for 7 minutes straight, and then we'll give it over to you to do the same, David. So this will keep it engaging. If you guys want to proceed, Bill, is it you who wants to start?
And before my time starts, I would like to just make a statement. Anything I ask is not meant to be condescending, snide, rude, arrogant, bullying. Okay, so
of course.
Again, I firmly believe people can believe whatever they want, but when they teach something that I believe is untruthful, I have a problem with that. But so anyway, don't take anything personally.
No, of course not.
Okay. 7 minutes for me to be the prosecutor.
You've got to have some fun, guys. I know we're gonna. Right. This is exciting. Go ahead.
I'm a nice guy. Yeah. Okay, my first question: why are you doing this debate? What's your motivation?
Oh, I just find it interesting. Actually, I really like dinosaurs. Actually, yeah, for the most part, dinosaurs. And this is a pretty interesting topic. I don't know what it is, honestly. I don't know what I find so interesting about it. I guess dinosaurs would probably be the what do you call it? The gateway to it, I guess, if that's what you'd like to call it. So yeah.
Okay, my next question: do you consider yourself an honest person?
I think so. If I said something that was wrong, I didn't mean to. To say.
No. Is your goal truth, or trying to prove something that you hope to be true?
My goal is truth. Yeah.
Okay. If you dug into the evidence, would you reject the bacteria to blue whale macroevolution because you found it not to be true? Are you willing to let go of that? Good, good. And are you willing to keep digging into it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now you said you believe in God.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm willing to go with that. Yeah, willing
to. Believe, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
So you believe that the teeth in a dog's mouth is the product of design?
Not direct. I think natural selection through mutations did that, but I think that it's the way that God. I think that that evolution is basically the way, like a computer program that he made, and then it took its path after that, or something like that.
Okay, we can talk about that in the next round.
Sure.
Yeah. My design argument, I have a bunch of design questions here, but you said you believe in God. But yeah, I'll go back on that. Does natural selection add information to a genome, or does it eliminate unfit organisms and unfit traits?
Well, so yeah, the mutations are what cause that, and natural selection eliminates the harmful ones, and it allows the ones that are either beneficial or neutral to survive and pass on their genes. So,
okay. So natural selection eliminates traits. It doesn't add information. You would agree on that, right?
Right. Well, it's not the natural selection that's adding it. It's the mutation.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. So your faith is that God, I don't want to put words in your mouth, God created bacteria, sat back and let it mutate to become a blue whale? What's your big view?
Well, I mean, whether or not, God, whether or not that's a, that God was behind that, I don't know. But yeah, I think, I don't, again, it wasn't really a bacterium, that it was a very
single-cell organism.
Right, exactly. Yeah, single-cell organism. Yes.
So God made a single-cell organism, sat back and let the mutations happen, and we got redwood trees, people, and whales.
Well, regarding abiogenesis,
no.
Right. That's a miss. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's but I don't know. Perhaps I don't have a problem with that. Yeah.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 100, how certain are you that you have bacteria ancestors?
Well, they weren't bacterium.
With single cell organism.
Probably like a 9.5, something like that.
Well, it's out of 100, so 95 will go.
Oh yeah,
What-
yeah, 95. Yeah.
What is the strongest reason that you would say that is evidence that humans are related to bacteria? Could you give me a specific piece of evidence?
Oh, genetics for that.
Genetics?
Yes.
Please explain.
Oh, sure. So the DNA that we share with E. coli and with bananas, that's what's used for paternity tests. They use the exact same methods to determine our relationship with other organisms that they use to determine whether or not you're the father of a child. So they use the exact same method, and they're just extrapolating it further back. Same concept, though.
Wow. Okay, so getting back to my earlier thing about the party, would you say that evidence is room Z? Have you seen the genetics, or has someone told you there's genetics for that? Are you believing it based on what people have told you, or something that you've actually observed?
Well, I mean, bananas have genes. I mean, they're alive. Well,
right.
But
you believe we're related to bananas.
Right. Well, they have DNA as well. So we have DNA, and pretty much most life has DNA. Yeah.
But your eyes have not observed evidence that we are related to bananas. You perhaps.
Well, you don't have to directly see it in order to conclude that it happened. I mean, I didn't witness a murder, but oh, sure.
I want to interrupt you. Your eyes have not seen evidence that humans are related to bananas, but perhaps you've read an article in a journal or something that says, "Hey, we both have DNA, therefore we're related to each other." Is that accurate?
Yeah. I don't know, because I wrote it. I've heard it from thousands of scientists and science communicators. Yeah, I mean that we all have DNA and that we're all built on the same basic stuff.
Okay, but if thousands of creationists gave you counter arguments, you shouldn't ever just go with the majority, because 200 years ago you would have been a creationist because was the majority. Trust your eyes and the science.
That's true.
How good is my point? There's 8 billion people, 1 million apes, but no transitional forms. Isn't that a pretty powerful evidence that we're not related to the ape?
Well, there are transitional forms. I mean, there are now. I mean, the ones that I presented, they're extinct, but I mean, there are transitional forms. I mean, like Homo erectus, Homo habilis, the Australopithecines. I mean, those are transitional forms.
What I hope you do, this is Bill to David, is look at absolutely every individual fossil and see if it can be categorized as ape or human. That's what got me out of evolution, looking at the fossils, that it's easy to categorize it.
Yes, so that's actually an interesting point. Yeah, if you line up all the different skulls, like the Australopithecines and then Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and you line them up, and you ask, creationists will say it's just an ape or it's just a human. The interesting thing is that the closer to the middle you get, the more they disagree with one another. Like for example, Homo erectus, some people will say that that's just an ape, and then others will say that's just a human. So,
I'm not cutting you off, I hope. Just imagine a tragedy happened. The United States Olympic team was flying to the Olympics and it crashed. You've got tiny little female gymnasts. You got huge shot putters. You know where I'm getting at. You got tremendous variation among humans. You got young people. You got old people. I really think, well, I'll ask my next question. Does it frustrate you that your evidence is all a fossil that people are interpreting and they're not living today?
Well, yes.
And then I'm sorry to interrupt. That'll be the last question for that one round. You can answer it. Take your time, David, and then we'll go to you asking the questions. My apologies there. Go ahead.
You're good. Yeah, and thank you both. Yeah, y'all are so friendly. I apologize if I've sounded rude or anything.
Oh no. You both are doing great. I just wanted to make sure we're both getting equal time with the cross examination round. So, David, take your time, answer that question, and then we'll switch it over to you asking Bill questions for 7 minutes. Go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah, it's you bring up a good point. Yeah, it really stinks that these like the Australopithecines and the Homo erectus that they're gone. Yeah, it's it kind of whenever you have transitional forms like that and then they go extinct, it kind of what's the word I'm trying to think of? It kind of creates a big gap between different organisms. So like for example, if let's take like rhesus macaques for example. Let's say that there were no chimpanzees and gorillas and orangutans alive today. That would, if there were none of the great apes, what we think of as apes around today, then there would be a large gap between. And I'm obviously not saying that I'm not implying a direct lineage, but it would be kind of an even bigger gap between us and the traditional monkeys, what we think of as monkeys. So
awesome. Well, that was a fast-paced first round of the cross-examination. Great questions there, Bill. Great answers, David. This has been awesome so far. So why don't we move to David? It's your turn to ask Bill some questions. I'll set the timer here. 7 minutes. Go ahead.
All right, cool. So when you were, so like you mentioned, when you were 14 years old, and you were taught evolution, so like when did you? Oh yeah, this might be getting off topic. And if you don't want to answer, that's perfectly fine.
I can't ask anything.
Oh, thanks. So when did you become an atheist? If you don't want to answer, that's perfectly fine. So. Yeah.
Okay, second row on the left-hand side of the class. I remember he taught it. I said, wait a minute. That completely falsifies the Bible that teaches Adam from the dust and Eve from the side. And I just said to myself, holy cow, I've been lied to by believing this. This was me. Mm-hmm. I was lied to believe in that Bible stuff. My science teacher, who I respected, Mr. Smedella, Amherst High School, mm-hmm. I felt duped. I felt that the Bible teachings had duped me from science. I've always been passionate about science. And I thought, not only do I think this is science, I kind of like it because I don't have to listen to all those rules about obedience anymore. Mm-hmm. And I grew to dislike creationists because I thought they were a threat to the thing I loved, and that is science. I know a lot of evolutionists hate creation because they think we're like a flat earther or something, that we're going to ruin their science, but absolutely not. The best way to learn about creation is to listen to a creationist. The worst way is to listen to an evolutionist. And the same way for evolution. I like to read evolution articles. But if you only get creation from an evolutionist, you're going to get mocking, derision, condensation, etc. So I don't want to take up your 7 minutes, but I did not like creationists until I actually read what the science was.
Yeah. So like before you learned about that, were you, you were were you like a theistic evolutionist beforehand, or?
Oh no, I was a very, very and I'm not blaming the Presbyterian Church. I was one of God's frozen people. Mm-hmm. My wife's Presbyterian. She's on fire for Jesus. I went there for 1 hour a week, and I believed it, but I didn't pay much attention. And I went to Sunday school and stuff. So I knew a little bit, but I believed it was true. Mm-hmm. But I absolutely threw it all out the window when I was 14 years old because of the science teaching.
Yeah. And so, like, what convinced you of creationism?
The first thing was a chick track. You ever heard of those?
That sounds very familiar.
Write it down. It's like a chicken. There was a chick track called Big Daddy. I was working as an engineer. My buddy said, hey, look what I found. And it had the ape-man chart, and it told me about the fossils. Mm-hmm. And I actually took 2 days off work, This is before the internet, and I called universities, and I said, what is the actual fossil evidence? And I actually got books from college libraries, and I said, my goodness, it's bits and pieces and fragments. I had truly thought, David, they had thousands and thousands and thousands of fossils. Fragmentary evidence, and the more I looked into it, every field of science, physics, thermodynamics, biology, chemistry, supports the creation model, in my opinion. And my hope for you, young man, is that you dig in for the facts, listen to both sides.
And yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, definitely. I think we should, hear, what we should hear, what people bring to the table, But like, what about like radiometric dating though? Like, and how we use like different like radioisotopes, I mean, that seems like a, regarding like a young Earth, like that's kind of that's what makes me very, skeptical as well. And also how we find certain fossils in certain layers. Like we don't find dinosaurs and trilobites and humans all together. Like as well as DNA, and especially these transitional fossils that are found in the that people find. It's all pretty compelling that it's evolution's a real thing.
But once again, trust your eyes.
Right.
Yeah, you said earlier it frustrates you. There's 8 billion people, which is a lot, million apes. A lot of fish, a lot of reptiles, but no in-betweens. And you said it, that frustrates you. I propose they don't exist. As to the age of the Earth, I don't believe the Earth is young. I believe it's 6,000 years old. That's a long time. I know. I'm having a little fun. But
go ahead.
If you believe bacteria became a whale, a camel, a redwood tree, an owl, you need that time. But this poor old Earth couldn't take billions of years of abuse of wind, rain, temperature change, solar radiation. You're in Jacksonville. I love Jacksonville. I'm in California. It's eroding. They have to import sand into Seal Beach every summer. Palos Verdes is falling into the ocean. Because of erosion, I propose there is no possible way a rock, especially a sedimentary rock, could contain a fossil for billions of years. It would erode. Asphalt lasts only 20 years.
Very quickly it's going to be protected from,
but it's going to erode on its way down. You follow me? See where I'm getting at? So erosion, the abuse of nature on this Earth, I don't believe a fossil could remain that long. And just be open-minded to it. The asphalt in front of your street is going to be replaced within 20 years, or else it's going to be in horrible shape because of nature's elements on minerals.
Right. So, for example, if they use potassium argon and rubidium strontium and uranium lead on like a Mesozoic fossil, or like on a dinosaur fossil, and all those different dating methods give an age, say, 125 million years old or something like that, then like, why would that, how is that not like compelling, I guess?
Good question. And again, don't believe a word I say, but test it. Science can measure chemical composition, temperature, mass, magnetism. Science cannot measure the age of anything. Okay? Go ahead. It's your time, so you get to ask.
Well, right. Well, I mean, it can give us, I mean, it's written in scientific, it's basically written in scientific language. I mean, radiometric dating, it's, obviously the fossil doesn't come with a label on it saying, I'm 150 million years old or something like that. But, we count, ratio of parent to daughter isotopes. I mean, that gives us a pretty good reason, gives us pretty compelling reasons to believe why, the Earth is, around 4.5 billion years old or something like that. So.
And it's your time to ask questions. Look, my dog's having another nightmare. Do you think you have the same amount of carbon-14 in your body as an Eskimo and a person who lives in China where they pollute like crazy?
The same amount of carbon-14?
Yes, in your body.
That I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't want to cut into your time, but look into it.
Mhm.
You probably have different amounts than they do, etc. Carbon-14 measurement only tells you the amount of carbon-14. It doesn't tell you the age. You have to
Well,
make
it's
all
only-
kinds.
Actually,
What if
real
they-
quick,
you have to
I
make
was
a
just
We've been
question.
up to around
I
50,000
was just
years.
going to point out, that's been equal time for the first round of both of you. First, Bill asked. It was actually roughly about 8 minutes for each of you. Therefore, we will now go back to Bill to asking you questions, and then we'll do the same for you, David, and that'll be the final round of cross-examination. So go ahead, take your time, Bill.
Awesome.
Okay, is it open forum, SFT?
It's up to you guys. Do you guys want to have another round of
Oh, no,
cross-examination?
no. What I mean, I can ask a non-science question.
Oh, yes, open forum. Whatever you want to ask,
Okay.
go ahead, guys.
David, I'm going to ask you the most important question you've ever been asked. What do you think will happen to you after you die?
I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. I hope something good. If you know what I mean.
Okay. I didn't ask you if you knew, though, and I asked this in friendship. What do you think will happen to you? I didn't ask you if you knew. What's your best guess?
Wow. If I had to, this is a hard one. I really wish I could tell you. I have no idea. It's, based on what I've heard, consciousness is a product of the brain, and again, this is just what I've heard. But based on that, I don't know if we'll be conscious when we die. So I have no idea. I haven't really looked into that much. So
Well, I haven't yet either. Okay.
You know what I mean?
I might look old, but I haven't died either.
Mhm.
But what is your best guess? I just, and you're not gonna be recorded and be on YouTube or the internet. It's just between us. I'm just kidding. What's your best guess? Just come up with
That's
something.
cool. I don't know. If I had to guess, there might be something. Maybe we, maybe we're conscious after we die. I have no idea. I just don't see any compelling scientific evidence to support an idea that we exist in some sense when we die in our physical body.
Okay. Do you believe in God? Yes or no? What's your best explanation?
Yeah, I don't know.
Best guess.
I would have to say, yeah, given the universe, and why there's existence, I would have to. I have a hard time not accepting. I have a hard time accepting that there wasn't
Good.
something.
Good. You're on your way.
Universe, if you know what I'm saying. And I don't know, maybe it may have been a multiverse, but that's not concrete. The multiverse theory, it's not very
For sure.
yeah.
But,
So
but you're not sure, but you would tend to think there is a God, right?
yeah, I would bet on that. I would lean more towards that. Yes.
Okay. The law of causality, for every effect, there's a cause.
Mm-hmm.
If God made us, there has to be a purpose. Wouldn't you at least guess that? If God made us, he made us for a purpose.
I don't know. I've never met God. I don't know.
But
Whatever.
It was made for a reason.
I'm sorry?
Your lamp, your bookshelf, your wallpaper, it was made for a reason. It's the law of causality. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if
books
God
are made and designed and written by people.
Okay.
We write, books, for people to read and, enjoy.
So isn't it likely though,
I'm sorry?
if God made you, if God made you, isn't it likely there's a purpose because of the law of causality?
Perhaps. It's like, I had parents and, they had parents and, you can, go on and, until the origin of life, which is a mystery, which, there are hypotheses, but it's not, but it's still, we don't really have, a concrete explanation for abiogenesis yet. But, I don't know. I'd love to hear what the purpose would be, if you know what I mean. So, yeah.
Good. I don't want to run out of my 7 minutes. I believe everything ever made was made for a purpose. My cell phone, my little globe here, etc. You were made for a purpose. The purpose could be that God made you to get old, get cancer, see your parents pass away. You know what I'm getting at? Suffer and have a miserable, many, many times of grief and die, and that's it. If that was true, I'd say God was a sadist, because there is a lot of suffering, grief, and pain in this life, and we've all gone through it. So I would say if God made us, he's not a sadist. There is life after this life. And I believe the whole purpose of this life is to determine who spends eternity with God. And to me, I can't prove that. I believe that's absolutely what the Bible teaches. It makes sense. If he's a loving God, the law of causality, the Bible teaches that, etc. So I don't know what you do in Jacksonville about dirt biking, surfing. That's all fun.
Yeah.
But the real purpose is how's that going to do for life after this life? Are you going to spend eternity with God or not? And that's based on premises of law of causality, cause and effect. What do you think about that?
Right. So regarding how we, you said that everything that's made is made for a purpose?
Everything that was made for a purpose.
What about like rocks and snowflakes? I mean, those.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry?
I have a lesson on beavers you would love. How snowflakes become water, but God doesn't want it to rush to the ocean. So beavers build dams. Snowflakes are meant for life. Absolutely. Rocks are meant to support your house is on a solid foundation, etc. I don't want to. So yeah, I believe rocks are made for a purpose. He sure made a lot of rocks.
Rocks, they form, rocks and snowflakes, they occur naturally. I mean, and there were rocks long before there were, humans to build homes and,
Yeah, I think 3 days before humans. But anyways, rocks have a purpose. Absolutely. That's my belief.
Cool. I just reached the just roughly another 8 minutes or so of cross exam. If you wanted to switch it over to David.
Can I just say one thing for 10 seconds?
Of course. Take your time.
David and audience, if you seek God with your brain and not your heart, you will find him. And that's what I hope people do.
Awesome.
Amen. David, go ahead. I'll restart the clock for your time to cross-exam. Bill, go ahead.
All right, cool. So you mentioned how like reptiles to birds, how you don't think that that's possible?
No.
I'm sorry?
No, for many reasons.
How come Archaeopteryx? How come that doesn't qualify as a good example?
Okay, I think Archaeopteryx was a bird with traits that aren't common with birds.
Right, they were dinosaur-like. They had dinosaur traits. In fact, Fred Hoyle was actually a creationist, although a very strange one. He was a very odd creationist.
Are you sure?
It's okay. He actually said that Archaeopteryx was just a dinosaur with feathers glued onto it. So again, like if you look at their skeleton, just at the skeleton, it clearly looks like a dinosaur. I mean, well, it is a dinosaur, but I mean, the chicken out looks like the odd one out when compared to like a Compsognathus and Archaeopteryx. I mean, so how is it a bird then?
Okay, well, I've heard that swans have a tail that's bony.
No
Hesperornis,
living bird has a long bony tail. That's a tail feather. What you're thinking of?
Okay, all right. Well, it had feathers.
Mm-hmm.
It had wings. It had a beak. It had.
No, it didn't have a beak. It had a reptilian mouth with teeth.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard Hesperornis was a bird with teeth.
Living bird with teeth?
No, it's extinct, but a bird with teeth.
Oh, right. Yes, there were birds with teeth. Yes.
Ah, okay.
Right.
And ostriches have claws on their wings, and some other birds.
They don't have 3 fingers, though.
Well, it went extinct. And this
No. Modern ostriches do not have 3 fingers.
I have no idea.
Yeah. There are living birds alive today with claws, but they don't have 3 fingers. No living bird has 3 fingers. Yeah, those are dinosaur traits. So.
And I have a question, but this is your time to question.
Sure. And also like the ape-like creatures to human or however you want to phrase it. How come you don't consider them missing links? Like Lucy, for example. Yeah.
Because is that Snake you're talking to? Hey, Snake, how you doing? Because I believe it to be an ape. It falls within classification of an ape. Ape hands, ape arms, ape skull, ape fingers.
Well,
and a hip and a knee that showed it could walk upright. Which apes can do today?
No, the modern apes today don't have the types of pelvis and the femurs that us and the Australopithecines had. They had a pelvis and a femur a lot more like ours. So that indicates that they were bipedal like us, biomechanically speaking. So.
But you do admit today there are apes that can walk on 2 legs. They might not prefer to. They might have a slightly different.
They just do it for like a few minutes at a time,
right?
Or something like that.
If they got buried, you could point to it and say, "Hey, this ape can walk upright."
If they got buried?
If they got buried and dug up, someone could say, "Hey, look at this ape-like animal."
But they don't walk regularly, whereas the Australopithecines walked regularly.
Most Fossil told you that, right? Little assumption.
Well, I mean, it's biomechanics. I mean, it's comparing their pelvis and their femurs to that of ours. When looking at that, it's reasonable to conclude that they walk more like us.
And it's also reasonable to conclude it could be an ape that could walk upright. It's possible, right? Yeah, you don't have to buy it.
It was an ape with very human-like characteristics, such as the femur and the pelvis. And its teeth were also intermediate between that of us and the modern apes. They were smaller than like a chimpanzee's, for example, but they were still larger than ours. So they also had feet more like ours too.
Are you saying all people have the same size teeth?
That's true. That good point. The average person. Yeah, I should have said the average person. So
they said to my son once, "You have the biggest molars I've ever seen." And he's my youngest kid, but anyways.
Yeah.
But there's variation.
That's true.
But question both sides, and I think if you do it open-minded with the open mind and use your brain, see where are these transitional forms? It's like trying to jump across 100 Grand Canyons, and you're a flea. You got to jump across all of them. They can't get across one.
Well, I mean, I think that the Australopithecines and Homo erectus and Microraptor and Tiktaalik, I think they're all pretty good examples of transitions. I mean,
do you agree that Tiktaalik looks like it's had a pretty rough beat up? It's pretty beaten up little fossil.
Yeah.
People are hanging their hat on that. Come on, David.
That's true. But hey, I mean, even looking at modern animals, you can look at amphibians when they're young. They look kind of like fish. when they're tadpoles,
Hmm.
So, I mean, that can kind of, I mean, that's not really evolution, but still, it makes it easier to, comprehend how, or get an idea of how, land animals could have come from non-land animals,
I politely say that takes a lot more faith than I believe I have.
So like when you say faith, like, do you mean, what exactly do you, because like there are certain contexts where faith is just like, just confidence.
Faith is believe it in something that
also-
hasn't happened yet, or you can't prove.
Oh, okay.
You have faith your car is going to start tomorrow morning. It's not blind faith, though. It's logical faith. Blind
Right,
faith is believing your car
That's
could
true,
fly
based
you
on
to
past
Miami.
experiences. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think there's evidence for it. I mean, given that, it's not something that we have blind faith in. It's something that we have reason and, evidence to believe occurred,
But remember, we're in room A with our little party. Your eyes aren't seeing it. You're looking at a photograph of Tiktaalik, and even the people who are evolutionists are saying, well, it could be a rib. It could have been a rib. Just read their own words. And I think you'll abandon it. These guys are dreaming. Now, a lot of people want to earn a PhD. This is true. To earn a PhD, you got to come up with something new. Someone might have found Tiktaalik. I don't know the history on that. And wrote a whole thesis on it. And some people will grab it and say, hey, they proved evolution. And sometimes evolutionists say, I didn't say it proved it.
Well, I mean, Tiktaalik was a very recent transition. Like, Lucy was found in the 70s. And as far as the acceptance of evolution, I don't remember exactly. I believe that was not long after, maybe a few decades after Darwin published his work. I'm not exactly sure when it became widely accepted, but there's massive, overwhelming, evidence for it today. I mean, from genetics and looking at fossils and comparing them to modern animals.
What about living evidence? How much living evidence is there?
Living evidence? Like living animals?
Transitional forms.
Well, I mean, in a sense, every living thing is a transition in a sense.
What does that mean?
They're transitional between, our descendants and our ancestors.
Yeah, but they're all humans.
That's true. Well, again, like, when you say human, would you consider like Homo habilis to be human?
From my reading, I would say he was, but if I'm wrong, it's because I haven't read about him for a long, long time. So I don't want to go, aha.
Right. So when you say
Oh,
human, you're not just talking about Homo sapiens.
I just wanted to jump in here real quick, guys. That would end our fourth round of cross-examination. Did you guys want to spend a couple minutes just kind of asking your last question or two that you felt wanted to be asked, or anything you wanted to address, and then we'll move into the closings? Or how do you guys want to proceed?
Oh yeah, whatever. I'm good with whatever, So yeah.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't just jumping in and interrupting you guys. If you guys had a few last things you wanted to say in terms of discussion, you're free to do so.
I'll start real quickly. I love people, and I talk to lots of people about the existence of God. If they say I'm good, I'll say have a great day. It's their choice. But it's no more important topic to think about, David. And it's amazing how many people say, I have no idea. I have no idea. And I believe, this is my opinion, a lot of people who hated God, kicked him out of their life, had to invent an alternative. Matter and energy came from nothing. Life came from non-life and mutated to become humans. And a lot of nice, sincere, open-minded people hear that taught because that's what's in the schools and believe it. But my goal for you is that you look at the evidence and not the rhetoric. And people make people, ladybugs make ladybugs. But so many people don't think about the big picture, the purpose of life. Is there a God? They just think about their next meal. So think about the big stuff.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that. So who exactly says that the universe came from nothing? I'm not aware of.
The smart atheist avoids the origin of matter and energy and the origin of life.
Well, because that's a mystery. We don't really know what caused the Big Bang. I mean, we don't really exactly know how abiogenesis.
If there was a Big Bang. If there was a Big Bang. You're assuming there was a Big Bang.
Well, it's currently the best supported scientific model for cosmic origins. They're not saying that it necessarily is absolutely correct. It's just the current best supported model for cosmic origins.
Okay, on a scale of 0 to 100, how certain are you there was a Big Bang?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know hardly anything about physics or cosmology. So,
and my goal is not to embarrass you, but if you had a vacuum and you expanded hydrogen and helium gas, what would it do in that vacuum?
In a vacuum, it would just like spread, I guess.
Yes, it's going to go to the lower pressure. Okay. Just like in Jacksonville, if you open 2 doors in your house, boom, that wind comes through because now it's low pressure instead of high pressure. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the Big Bang. They teach it came together because of gravity and formed stars and fusion. If you compress a gas, does it become warmer or colder?
So if you compress gas, I believe it would become warmer.
Yes. And the forces to have that warmth expand is more than to cause it to come together and form stars. There's at least 50 simple reasons of science the Big Bang did not create or did not expand hydrogen and helium, form stars, etc. Very important stuff, though.
But who said it came from nothing, though? That's what I'm confused. But I'm confused, like, who said it came from nothing?
Well, the Big Bang does not address the origin of matter and energy.
Right, because that's a mystery.
The Big Bang addresses the expansion of matter and energy.
Right, it's a mystery. We don't know what caused or, what came before the Big Bang, if that's, if that's even possible. But, if that's even a valid question, because from what I've heard, time came into existence at the Big Bang or when that occurred.
Well, when there was matter and energy, there was time.
Right.
Again, be careful of your presuppositions that, well, there was a Big Bang. We know that. No, question everything. And this is a fun thing. Science can't prove anything that happened in the past. Okay?
Technically, science doesn't. Science disproves.
Well, science can prove things in the present.
Mm-hmm.
But I won't get into the details, but science cannot prove that O.J. Simpson committed those murders. Are you familiar with them, or are you too young?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. There could be blood evidence. There could be DNA evidence. There could be a cut
We're
finger.
not absolutely certain, but it's reasonable.
Right. Science can give you a best explanation, but can never get you to the top of the mountain of 100% certainty.
Exactly. Yeah, science doesn't deal with absolute certainty. So,
well, in the present, it can.
Well,
absolutely. I'm an engineer. If I design the right refrigerant at the right pressure and the right temperature, I can cool you down in Jacksonville. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, this would be a different topic. This whole, this thing about absolute certainty. Like, can we be absolutely certain about anything? It's like, how do I know I'm not a brain in a vat? That's, that would get off into a tangent.
Because you won't give me your money.
Yeah.
But science can't prove matter and energy created itself from nothing by natural means, but we have a law of science that falsifies that premise. Mm-hmm. You see? It doesn't prove it, but I would say it makes it 99.9% sure matter and energy did not appear from nothing by natural means. And the smart atheist runs from that
Well,
question.
yeah, I agree. I don't think it did come from nothing. I've never really heard anybody say it came from nothing.
Have you talked to atheists?
I've heard from them. I haven't heard them say that they think it came from nothing. Most people I've talked to just say that we don't really know what happened, before the Big Bang, if that even makes sense to say something like before the Big Bang. That is, the Big Bang is the best scientific model supported by the evidence.
Just think of that vacuum and that hot gas.
Yeah.
Not a good model.
I don't know enough about that. So
dig into it. I love to say this.
Yeah.
Let's say, I'm not picking on you. Suppose you're here right now and the world's smartest guy is here. David, you can get up to here. You know what? You can learn so much about the Big Bang, and I think learn enough to reject it if you look at both sides. But one important thing, I always ask people, what's your best explanation for the origin of matter and energy? And they always say the same thing. I don't know.
Well,
Bill Nye said that during, but I didn't ask if he knew. I asked for his best explanation. What's the best explanation for the OJ alleged murder? We won't get into that, but you can't prove it. You follow me?
When you say prove, do you mean like absolutely prove?
Right.
Like,
you can't.
right. Yeah.
You can't absolutely prove the origin of matter and energy, but there's evidence that indicates it couldn't be natural because of thermodynamics. But look into it.
Awesome.
Definitely.
If your friends feed you one thing, bounce it off me. I'll email you. My email is billyjack1@hotmail. Bounce everything off me. And see what your atheist. It's such an important topic. That's why I'm debating. We're not debating. I don't know, politics. I don't care about that. But
right.
Eternity is important.
Yeah.
Well, that was a really good discussion, guys. Really good debate, actually. You guys kept it fun, engaging. You guys always make for a good time, so I appreciate it. Why don't we jump into the closing statements? I know we could probably do this discussion portion forever, but we do have a lot of good questions as well. I'd like to get to as many of those as possible. Beforehand, did we agree? I think it was a 5-minute closing, gentlemen?
5 or 6. Let's probably hope.
Yeah, you know what? Whatever time you guys need. Why don't we start with you, Bill, since you kicked us off with your opening? Take as much time as you need. I don't want to rush you. When you're done, we'll just give David equal amount of time.
Oh, you said take as much time as I want?
Maybe not quite an hour, but
I was born in 1960, and I was born cesarean. So whenever I leave the house, I go out the side window. Okay. Anyways, which came first, the chicken or the egg? I believe it couldn't be a chicken. It couldn't be an egg. You need 2. It's called sexual reproduction. I lovingly challenge all evolutionists to try to explain the origin of sexual reproduction. How does half an organism population become male, half become female, and then they have the instinct and know how to breed? I believe the first chicken, the first rooster male and hen female had to be adults to take care of themselves and then take care of their young. They had to be in the same place. They needed the right food, the right oxygen, the right gravity, the right temperature. Thousands of things. I believe the Garden of Eden teaching is a literal truth where a designer God made male and female, also for bears, for penguins, and for people. Male and female adults. Very important question, though. Okay? So, if you think humans have bacterium ancestors, ask yourself, is it because you've seen evidence for it? Or you've been told there's evidence for it? Or maybe C, you're hoping there's evidence for it. Don't live your life on hope. Live your life on evidence and facts. Seek them out. Question authority. The smartest thing you can do. In the United States, in the schools, you can question every single person except one person, Charles Darwin. That's not right. For my buddy David, question Darwin, question Ken Ham, question Dr. Hovind, question everybody. Please question Darwin, and I think you'll see another spelling there. Your beliefs will abandon you in the theory of evolution. 3 questions. Why do I believe a designer exists? Because it's designed. The atom is a design. The molecule is a design. Your skin cell is a design. Your body is a design. That requires a designer. Suppose we got 100,000 smart people from New Guinea who'd never seen this, and we said nature carved this out over millions and millions of years. They'd say that's nonsense. That's the result of a design. Then these guys went to college at UCLA. The professors would teach them, well, the human face is the result of time, nature, and chance, that there is no designer. And sadly, nobody questions that. This is a design, that's a design. This designer was smart. This designer has intelligence beyond comprehension. Okay? Suppose you came home, David, you saw this on your driveway, 15 stones. You would probably guess it's the result of chance, that pattern. Looks like chance. Suppose you came home the next day, you saw this. You'd say, wow, somebody laid those out in a straight line. That's the result of design. But you could only be 99% sure, 1% faith, because you weren't there. Suppose you saw that on your driveway. Wow, that's got to be a design, but you can't be sure because you weren't there. Now you're 99.99999% sure, 0.00001% faith. You can never be 100% sure, but that sure looks like a design. Everybody watching, and David, what's more complex, 150 stones in a circle or the human eye? The eye is infinitely more complex, which requires a designer, but you still can't be certain because you weren't there, but it's minuscule. I believe the atheist who thinks eyes happen by chance, optic nerves, the visual cortex have much more faith than people who believe in a designer. True or false, your dog can see better than you in the dark. It's true. They have what's called a tapetum. Behind their retina, they can bounce the light off to get twice the amount of benefit from the same amount of light than we do. That's why you see that eye shine. How in the world could time, nature, chance, natural selection, and mutations make that? I believe that is an emotional belief, not an intellectual belief. Why is the theory of evolution not scientific? It's not been observed. Fossils have been observed and interpreted, but other people have interpretations of the same fossils. There's no fossil evidence for it. Dig deep. It's an important topic. We're not talking about politics. We're talking about eternity and truth. And I could list a million more things. It's called zoology, taxonomy, genetics, biochemistry. God made bees, fleas, peas, and trees, and that's all they can make. Okay? So, question, are you going to believe drawings and words, or are you going to believe your eyes? I shared this in my last debate. There once was a man in the middle of Indiana who was convinced he was dead. They collected a bunch of money, and they got the world's smartest guy from Florida to come up and talk to him. So he flies up, and the guy says, I'm dead. And he goes, really? Do dead people bleed? And the guy says, no, dead people don't bleed. The world's smartest guy pricked his finger. He started bleeding. The man said, oh, I was wrong. Dead people do bleed. Some people do not care about the evidence. They want to prove their hypothesis. I hope people seek the truth. The 5 main reasons people are atheists, some because they're mad because of suffering, or they've had a bad experience with religion. I understand that. That's emotional, though. Some don't like the Bible's rules. I understand that. Everybody struggles with that. Some people are too prideful to be humble to a God. Some people follow the peer pressure. Well, if this is what smart people believe, that's what I want to believe. And some people sincerely believe they're defending what they love, science. Well, I don't think anybody has studied the human finger, hand, wrist, shoulder, elbow, and concluded, wow, this is not a design. I believe they're motivated by one of these 5 reasons, and I've talked to a lot of them. Okay? So, when you see your eye, your optic nerve, and your visual cortex, Are you going to choose to believe it's the result of a designer with an IQ of infinity or nature with an IQ of 0? And is your goal truth or trying to prove what you want to be true? I thank you for the debate, David, and I hope you continue seeking truth and email me with challenges and questions, and let's get this figured out. I care about you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for that concluding statement there, Bill. David, take as much time as you need as well. No rush at all. And then we'll jump into the question and answer. We got some good questions for you guys, so should be fun. Go ahead, David.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Bill. That was really awesome. And you're such a darn nice guy. So thank you so much for tolerating, me and all that. So now regarding the recognizing design, I think we would all agree, seeing Mount Rushmore, we would totally agree that it just formed like that naturally and people didn't carve that. That's because we don't really recognize design things by the complexity. We recognize them by their whether or not they occur naturally. So like a paperclip, it's not too complicated, but we would reasonably conclude that it was designed. Whereas say a flower, it's complex, but they naturally occur. They reproduce, and so design's not necessarily, or complexity is not necessarily indicative of design. It's more like contrasting things in nature and seeing if they naturally occur. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to have to look more into the cosmology.
That wasn't me.
I'm sorry?
Somebody burped. It wasn't me.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely going to learn more about that and see if I can help go into more detail about that. So, yeah.
You might be a lone wolf. You might be criticized and teased, but truth is worth it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is that all the time you need there, David?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you. Short and sweet. Guys, thanks so much for an amazing debate. I got to say, not just myself, but the audience as well. Both of you guys did a really good job. So thanks so much. And we got some good questions. Probably not going to be able to get to all of them or else we'll be here all night. And Film Free has an after show right when we're done this. Anybody's invited, anybody in the chat, David, Bill, of course. So just want to let everybody know that, but let's get right into it. So we'll go super chat from George Bond. Thanks so much, George. He says, Bill Morgan, Billy Jack was one of my favorite movies.
You're old like me, George. And his name's not George Bond, it's Bond. George Bond.
Related to James Bond.
Yep.
That's why George is so cool. Okay, so let me see here. Question for David. Question is from Evolution is Alien Science. Thanks for your question. What evidence would convince you evolution isn't true?
Yeah, like finding like fossils of dinosaurs and humans and trilobites all mixed together, as well as radiometric dating if these layers had all been dated at the same time period. And those are a few examples. Those would help broaden my, or that would help, convince me otherwise. So, yeah.
Would you like a response to that there, Bill?
Yes. I don't want to put David on the spot, but I can't speak for everybody, but they seem like a good bunch. Could me and other people email you where there were all kinds of errors in radiometric dating because it's an interpretation of the chemical elements. It's not measuring the date. Would you be open to people emailing you, like they could say, challenge
Yeah.
to radiometric dating?
Oh,
Could you
yeah,
provide
definitely.
your email?
Yeah, sure. It's davidpalmer98@gmail.com. Yeah.
Because again,
Yeah,
maybe they
feel
were
free
crazy.
to.
Go ahead.
No, you're good,
I've
man.
read where they've rejected more than half the dates that have been come up with for radiometric dating because it didn't fit the model. I've read where they took samples from the lava dome at Mount St. Helens that was 20 years old.
I've heard
And
that.
you've heard that.
Yes,
380,000 years.
and you can't date if you're
Wait,
going to use potassium
let me finish real quick.
or uranium lead dating.
Wait. Let me finish real quick.
Mhm.
380,000 years or 280,000 years to like 3 million. At least, wouldn't you at least get the same age? Each lab came up with a different date, and it was only a couple years old, maybe 20 years old.
Right, because it has to. If it's that young, it can't be dated because you have to wait at least, I believe, 100,000 years or more when using radioisotopes that they used. So, like carbon dating, for example, which doesn't really apply in this case, but carbon dating is only good to date things around 100 years old and around 50,000 years old. So if you were to carbon date like an animal that died just 5 days ago, you're going to get false readings. So it's the same type of concept as that. I don't remember exactly what type of radioisotopes that they were using at Mount St. Helens. But yeah, you'd have to wait, or I think it's around 100,000 years for lead, I believe.
I'm going to give you a compliment. You're a smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put all by. Do you see any problem with what you just said? Well, it's got to be 100,000 years old or you can't date it.
Right, and so they use
that?
multiple different radioisotopes with similar half-lives, and if all those radioisotopes give them the same age, then it's reasonable to conclude that it's pretty accurate reading. So,
but you don't see any problem with what you said. If it's less than 100,000 years old, you can't date it. It's not science.
I'm sorry?
Science measures things.
Right. Well, they measure
weight, mass.
Weight, mass. I'm sorry?
Well, science measures things.
Mm-hmm.
To say, well, we can't measure this until it's 100,000 years old, that's not science. That's philosophy. That's assuming that they know what it should be. You follow me?
Well, they use multiple different radioisotopes. They don't just rely on one. So
right, and I'm going to email you lists where they've had different dates, and then they'll pick the one they want to fit the model.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to see which one you're talking about. If you know what I mean. So,
but even if the Earth were trillions of years old, David,
mm-hmm.
you're not going to get non-life to become bacteria and mutate into a redwood tree. So I don't give up the young Earth, but I will grant you trillions of years of age. You're not going to get male. Isn't that a good point? How in the world does a male and a female evolve, David?
Oh yeah, the evolution of gender or sex or
sexual reproduction.
From what I've heard, that evolved around some of the very most primitive single-celled organisms. I don't remember exactly how that was, how that came to be. That's an interesting topic. I'll have to send you an email and
you won't find anything. I found one article by a lady named Lynn Margolis who addressed it. Most evolutionists don't address the details like sexual reproduction. Not to embarrass you, but you've got 46 chromosomes in all your cells except your gametes. You have 23. Lynn Margolis said that's because of cannibalism, that organisms were eating each other and not fully digesting some of them. So in different parts of their body, they had twice as many chromosomes. Brother, the Bible is much more reliable than cannibalism resulted in sexual reproduction. And I say that in friendship. But try to find an article on sexual reproduction. You won't. And if you do, send it to me.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks so much, guys. Good answers, good back and forth. You guys keep it fun, that's for sure. We've got a good comment from Dr. Ken Hovind himself. He was in the chat. He really enjoyed the debate. So you guys got some fans. He says, "Great job, Bill."
How do I look?
He says, "We need to meet. Come visit our dinosaur adventureland in Lenox, Alabama, or call 1-855 Big Dino Extension 3 sometime, please." So, Bill, especially you got a fan. Actually, I'm not sure if the audience knows, and I don't think this is a secret, but Bill is known for moderating the Michael Shermer versus Ken Hovind debate years ago, and that one is one of the classics. So you did a great job moderating that one, Bill.
Did you see it?
I've seen it many times. Yeah.
Well, it was a packed house, and I hate to say, I feel sad when I leave these that people believe that, and I'm not being condescending. If you watch the debate, Hovind destroyed him with science. I don't know. It's the most obvious thing in the world that the human eye is a design, and people make people. But yeah, I moderated that debate, and can I share a funny story?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Okay. So I write a creation newsletter. If anybody wants to get it, I'll be happy to send it to them. It's always short. And I found out there was going to be a debate at UC Irvine. So I wanted to put it in my newsletter, and I called the Christian group, and I said, "Hello there, could you give me details on the debate?" And they said, "Yeah, Shermer versus Hovind." And I said, "Great. What's the format?" "We don't have one." "Okay, who's the moderator?" "We don't have one." So I said, "I'll moderate." I don't know how to moderate a debate. So I did the debate, and they said, "We expect a lot of people." So I said, "How are you going to do question and answer?" And the young person said, "Well, after they're done, we're going to pass out cards. They'll write their questions. We'll collect them and ask the questions." And I said, "You won't have time." I said, "Make a blue card and a green card, pass it out beforehand. Blues for Hovind, greens for Shermer." Well, what happened is they did that. And when they were collecting the cards, they literally, as soon as he handed them to me, a stack this tall of questions, he runs up on the stage and he says, "Now it's time for question and answer." And I couldn't even look at him. So I made up the questions. I tried to ask good questions. I had no time at all. 400 people looking at me, and it's like.
Well, you made up some good questions then, because I remember that question and answer period, and it was good. I've taken some clips from that. You did a good job. I wish I could have been there for that debate.
You know, Shermer used to claim to be a born-again Christian. Do you know Michael Shermer? I don't want to lose you, David.
I know of him. I've seen him. I've seen a few snippets of him. Yeah.
Fantastic speaker. Seems like a nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
But from what I read, his girlfriend got in a terrible car wreck, and he gave up on God, which is tragic, but that's emotional and not, you know what I mean? And it's understandable.
Yeah.
But this life is temporary. We're going to go through all kinds of garbage. You have, right, David? You've seen terrible things happen in your life, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've lost, family members. Yeah.
And you'll probably lose more. But this is temporary. The whole purpose of this life is eternity. So I hope you focus on that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that story, Bill. No, I've heard that before and I love it. So that's awesome. Okay. Yeah. Let's go to super chat from Coco Puffer. Thanks so much. He asked questions for David. So David, take your time. The question is, how do you explain C14 being found in diamonds?
C14 being found in diamonds. Honestly, I don't know. I will have to look that up. Yeah, I don't know. Did he say what he's referring to?
I do. I know.
Cool.
Yeah, if you'd like to comment on it, go ahead.
So my goal is not to one up, but people claim carbon-14 has a half-life of about 5,000 years, and like you said, up to 50,000 years, it's all gone. It's no longer C14. But people say diamonds are millions of years old. And I've heard nearly every diamond, if not all, have carbon-14 in it. So you can see the quandary there, David, couldn't you? Like, how in the world could the diamond be 1,000,000 years old and still has carbon-14 in it?
Is the daughter element in there as well? If there has to be,
you know what,
because when it decays into its daughter element. And is there a daughter element in there as well?
I don't know, but what I have read is that there is carbon-14
well, that's
still
the
in there.
that should decay. Daughter element. You could, compare the ratio of C14 to, I don't know, whatever it decays to.
If it's 1,000,000 years old, there should be no carbon-14 in it. Agree?
Well, I mean, there would have to be some kind of, did the daughter, whatever C14 turns into, was there some of that in there?
Nitrogen. I would. One thing I've said as an engineer, I'd be guessing if I told you. I don't know if they found nitrogen in there, but there is C14. But ask your evolution buddies that same question and try to determine what's true. And I'm so old. I remember when they said, "Oh, diamonds have to form over millions of years." Now you youngsters, they make them better and faster today. I think in a matter of days they can make diamonds that are superior to the old ones.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
But look into it.
Definitely. Yeah, I will definitely do that.
Cocoa Puff.
Thanks for the good question. Thanks for the good responses, gentlemen. Okay, next question. This one's for you, David. So the questioner asks, why didn't every animal eventually evolve to be herbivorous instead of many animals having multiple diets like we observe today? Go ahead, David.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, why does that's just pretty much random mutations being selected for. I don't know exactly why they weren't, all herbivorous. That's a really good question. I would have to say just random mutations selected for by nature. I know that's a very, generic answer, but it's I will definitely hopefully find a more specific answer. And I will address that in, an upcoming video or something like that. So yeah.
Here's my proof of creation right here, my dog.
Aww. That's a beautiful dog, Bill.
Yep, rescue dog. She was in the gang. We rescued her. Now she's got it made. I'd like to do a quickie, a comment on that.
Of course. Yeah. You guys are always free to give a response. So go ahead, Bill.
I was stuck on the 57 freeway and listening to Philip Johnson, and he said something that I thought was brilliant. Evolution is all about superiority and reproducing. If you can reproduce better, you'll mutate and you'll propagate. Okay. The most efficient reproducing organism on the planet is bacteria. Every 20 minutes it reproduces. Fun trivia, and you can answer this too, SFT. What is the least efficient reproducing organism on this planet? David, you can answer too.
Least efficient?
The least successful in reproducing. Getting pregnant.
I'm not sure.
Humans.
I was gonna, that's kind of what I was thinking. I didn't want to give the wrong answer.
I was going to say like elephants, like because they have a long gestation period. But yeah, I see what you mean.
My wife and I, 7 years, and then when we gave up trying to have kids, we got pregnant. But you see the point. The most efficient reproducing machine, why would it mutate to humans and they're low efficient? This is a simple one. Which children are the least independent after birth for a long time? Humans, right?
Oh, yes.
Giraffes, horses, dogs, they're pretty good right off the bat, but humans take forever. That's anti-evolution model to me. But I believe God designed that to nurture families. That's just my opinion, that it takes a lot of nurturing to raise a child.
Right. Well, yeah, since they're born, underdeveloped, and helpless, they need, supervision to, help them survive. So that,
Little
that makes
whales, they're ready to go almost from birth.
That's right. Yeah, definitely. And wildebeest, they're kind of ready. They have to be pushed a little bit, but yeah.
Humans are unique. Wouldn't you say, David, humans are pretty unique from other living organisms in that way?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that and our brain to body size ratio, that's probably the most unique. We're also the only animals that, live in the Arctic and the tropics too. So it's pretty cool. So
wear shoes.
Okay, let's get to the next question. This one is another one for you, David, from John Maddox. His question is: you are hanging your hat on a few questionable ape-to-human transitions. Where are the fossils of what humans and apes supposedly split from? Go ahead.
Oh, so is he asking about the common ancestor, the last common ancestor?
I think he's asking about the last common ancestor between chimps and humans. Yes.
Oh, yeah. So as far as I know, I'm not aware. I don't think that scientists or that paleontologists have found the common ancestor between humans and the other great apes. So we don't really know exactly quite what it looked like. So, but we do have genetic evidence confirming that we did share a common ancestor with chimps around 6 or 7 million years ago. So yeah.
Thank you for that answer there, David. Quick response there, Bill?
I don't want to sound smug, but I would agree they haven't found it. I have quotes where they admit they haven't found it. And I have quotes where they say
they have not found fossils of the common ancestor.
The LCA. And then the quote even goes on to say, we're not even sure what it would look like, and they disagree on what it should
we don't know
like.
what it looks like.
So
we don't know.
You don't know what you're looking for. Well, I'd say they won't find it because it doesn't exist. But,
it's fossilization is a very rare, thing, and especially if you live in a jungle environment, that's not the best place to become fossilized. So.
Now, people say fossilization is rare, but would you agree there's over 1 trillion fossils?
Absolutely, because there's just so many things that have right. Because there have been so many things that have lived, and then that just shows how many things that have lived,
Well, that brings me right to Ken Hoven's comment/question. So this one's for you, David. He says, animals die today by the millions, yet none will fossilize. They are scattered by the buzzards, coyotes, and ants. One fully articulated skeleton is clear evidence of rapid burial. What do you say, David?
I don't think so. They don't find whole remains, especially of I'm not aware of like dinosaurs, for example. They don't find fully intact skeletons. That's very rare. They might find the ribs, the backbone, as well as a leg, and then the head. But they might have a missing arm or a missing leg or a missing tail or something like that. You might find 60% or 70% of the animal. So you don't always find fully intact fossils. And as far as rapid, that it all happened at once, I don't really think so, especially considering how you find different animals in different layers, like trilobites and, dinosaurs, you don't find them mixed with humans. So I'm very skeptical about it all happening at once. So yeah.
Quick response, Brother Bill?
Let's have a little fun. David, suppose you got hired by the Jacksonville Police Department and you're a detective, and they say, what is the cause of death of the dinosaurs? What would your best forensic science tell you was the cause of death for the dinosaurs that have been found?
Based on what I've seen and what I've heard, again, that they, and from what I've heard, they also admit that they don't really know exactly what it was, but they say that probably the thing that contributed to their extinction the most was the asteroid impact, and that's based on a crater in the Yucatan Peninsula in the Gulf of Mexico. And there's also a layer of iridium around in different layers. Well, yeah, there's this layer of iridium all over the world, and it's dated to around 65 million years old all over the world. And iridium is very rare on Earth, but it's very common in asteroids. And above that line, we have yet to find any non-bird dinosaurs or any non-avian dinosaurs. We have yet to find any dinosaurs dated younger than 65 million years, or whatever around the time of the iridium layer. So yeah.
Okay, maybe you didn't understand my question. You were tasked to find the cause of death of the dinosaur fossils that have been found. We don't know what killed dinosaurs.
So like
Suppose
what?
there's
How
dinosaur
did that
Leo living there. We don't know
die?
what killed him. The dinosaurs found. What was their cause of death?
You
Using
have to look
forensic
at
science.
Oh, okay. So as far as looking at how that individual fossil died, you would have to look at their bones, like if it had any, bite marks on it or anything like that. If it had like looking at bite marks and looking at bones, you might be able to tell how old the thing was, whether it was, older, around the end of its life. You just look at stuff like that,
Suppose I was your junior detective, and I said, Detective David, every dinosaur fossil we have found is buried in sedimentary rock. Would that help you as a forensic detective solve the mystery of what killed those dinosaurs?
What killed those particular fossils?
Yes. The many, many, many dinosaur fossils found are buried in sedimentary rock. Does that offer a forensic clue to the cause of death?
Well, you'd have to look at the individual dinosaurs.
Okay, we find one in Texas, and it's buried in sedimentary rock. What most likely killed it?
Well, I mean, that would depend on, that individual fossil. Now, if you're talking about dinosaurs as a whole and why we don't find any above the KT boundary or,
Nope.
Dated younger than 65 million years, that's a different question. But as far as the individual fossil, you'd have to look at the fossil.
Okay, it's outside of Dallas, Texas. I find a dinosaur fossil buried in sedimentary rock.
Mm-hmm.
You're the detective. What's the most likely cause of death?
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe it died of sickness. Maybe it got ill and then it got buried quickly.
Okay.
But not all at once. Not all at once. It could not have happened all at once, though. That's the thing. I'm very skeptical that it could have all happened at once, especially how we find, find orderings of fossils in these layers.
I ask this with respect. Are you afraid to say it probably died from rapid burial, to say it could have got sick and then buried? Because every animal in the world is going to pick its bones and eat it. The sun's going to eat that thing alive, oxygen, microbes. Every dinosaur fossil is in sedimentary rock. What's the most likely cause of death?
The most likely cause of death?
To be buried in sedimentary rock.
Maybe it got trapped, and then it starved. There's a lot of different scenarios. I don't know. I'd have to look at the individual thing. Well, I'm not a paleontologist or a scientist of any kind.
No, but you're a smart guy. It got buried. But
right. But I'm very skeptical that they all got buried in one global.
Not even saying that.
Mhm.
I'm not even going there. I'm giving you a break. But every single dinosaur fossil found is in sedimentary rock. I think we could both agree they both got buried in a violent flood. It wasn't just a bunch of rain, because they would have rotted.
In a flood.
Well, they got buried. It wasn't just rain. If Jacksonville got a ton of rain and you drowned, you'd rot in no time. You wouldn't be a fossil. But if a mountain of rock and mud buried you, then you might become a fossil.
Mm-hmm.
See, rain's not. But don't you see my point that the evidence shows each dinosaur died from burial? Question B, was it one flood or a million floods? But the evidence clearly teaches they died from a violent flood. It had to be sudden and violent, because everybody wants to live.
Not one global one. I'm not aware of any evidence of a global flood, of a literal global worldwide flood.
But would you agree that the evidence indicates the dinosaur in Texas we're talking about, just that one, died for burial, if it's buried in sedimentary rock?
Yes.
Okay.
It would have to be buried in order to, avoid being scavenged,
Okay, good. And a quick thing on the La Brea tar pits. Have you ever heard of them? They're in California.
Yeah, in California, in LA.
Okay. I have a creation friend who wrote a book on the La Brea tar pits. The evidence is in the tar pits, they've got all kinds of smashed, mashed, bashed bones.
Mm-hmm.
The secular opinion is that these animals saw their reflection and started to drink and got stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't fit the evidence. My friend wrote a book, his name is Bill Weston, that these animals died in a flood, and they were tossed and turned like they were in a washing machine till they became a bunch of mashed up bones, and the mashed up bones got stuck in the tar pits. So if a mountain of mud lands on you, it's very likely you're going to get a lot of your skeleton removed. But anyways, try not to be biased with the data. The data supports the dinosaurs died from a flood. Question 2, was it one flood or a million floods? Okay.
Right. There certainly could have been, one, or there could have been many, local flooding events, in certain areas. But as far as a worldwide flood, I'm very skeptical of that. But, you're right. Definitely keep an open mind, And,
you know what type of rock is on top of nearly every mountain?
I'm sorry?
And it's not a pop quiz. Trust me on that. Do you know what type of rock is on top of nearly every mountain? Sedimentary rock.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, Mount Everest has sedimentary rock on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And creationists believe there was a flood, and after the flood, the mountains rose. That's how you get, it's like a cupcake with frosting on it. That's how you get sedimentary rock on top of a mountain like Mount Everest, that they rose after the flood. The Grand
Rose
Teton.
that quickly after the flood?
Pardon me?
It rose that quickly after the flood?
Have you ever researched, and it's not a pop quiz again, have you ever read up on bent strata?
I have not. No.
Okay. This is kind of a trick question, but we're buddies. Can concrete bend?
Can concrete bend? I wouldn't
It's kind of a trick question, and my goal isn't like that. I used to pour curbs for a living when I was in high school and college. Yeah, you can bend it when it's soft. Okay.
Right.
It's different
Yes,
space.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, please Google this, David. Bent strata. All over the earth, the mountains are at an angle. Evolutionists have a hard explanation of how do you bend strata. We talked about concrete. When could strata be bent? When it's soft. When it's pliable. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
When it's hard, it would shatter. But Google bent strata. I believe there was a flood, and after the flood, the mountains rose, and that would cause bent strata. And it's such a fun pursuit to see that science confirms the Bible, in my opinion, and to teach and falsifies man's explanation. But you can't bend granite. You can't bend hard rock, but when it's soft, you can.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to look that up, and I will address that.
Speaking truth.
Well, guys, thanks for really good back and forth there as well. This has been a really, really fun question and answer. Like I said, you guys keep it fun. We are going on well over 2 hours now, so I think people want to get to the after show. So what we'll do is we'll end it on this one. I think this is going to be a good question to end it on. More of a statement, actually. Cocoa Puffer for the super chat. Thank you, Cocoa Puffer. He's coming at you, Bill. He says, cats are still better, just saying.
What's better?
He says cats are better, just saying.
I believe you can throw a cat a lot farther than you can throw a dog, so I agree. Everybody's different, and I think that's awesome that God made everybody different. I'm a dog person.
Amen, brother. Amen. So yeah, no, this was a really, really good debate. We all had a lot of fun. Thanks again for giving us your time, guys, because without you giving us your time, there wouldn't be a debate to be had. So why don't we end it with just a few words from each of you, if you wanted to plug in your channels or just briefly go over how you feel the debate went, and then we'll have Praise shut it down here. So why don't we start off with you, Bill?
It's an honor. The reason I do it is because I think there's nothing more important in life than to know what the meaning of life is, the purpose of life, and how we got here. Life has got to be terrifying for an atheist. This COVID virus, to me, shows the absolute dread and fear people have of dying. I don't want to die, but if I'm just floating in a boat with no hope, no reason, no purpose, it's a scary proposition. But the best, life is like being in a boat. You can be in the boat by yourself in a storm. You can be in the boat by yourself. You can be in the boat with a bottle of booze, or you can be in the boat with Jesus. And it's best to have the Creator in your boat with you and have Him in charge. We won't understand all suffering and everything, but we can just say, hey, I trust Him and He's in charge. And there's nothing more important in life.
Amen. Thanks for that there, Bill. David, any final words?
Yeah. This is, I really enjoy, talking with Bill and being on this channel again for the third time. Y'all are so darn friendly, and, I really enjoy talking with you guys. Y'all are awesome. So, yeah.
Read your Bible. It's instruction book for life. That's the smartest thing you can do. And smartest thing you can do is really question your evolution atheist buddies. Look for answers.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is, actually, most of them are not atheists. I mean, even if there are, that's perfectly fine. They're also, my family and friends, they're all theistic evolutionists. So, I mean, but there are also, quite a few atheist friends of mine that, that I talk with, but it's not an atheist thing. So I just want to clarify that,
Well, I don't know if we should get into this, but I personally, this is just me. I have more respect for the atheist who believes in evolution than the theist. And this is just Bill Morgan speaking. Because evolution was invented by people trying to push God out of their lives and explain things.
I don't think so. No, that's not really the case. I mean, Darwin himself was never an atheist. He discovered that. I mean, and he wasn't looking to do anything like that. I mean,
have you read up much on Darwin?
Have I read much on Darwin? A fair amount, yeah.
But his later writings, to me, he's clearly an atheist. When he wrote,
he said that he's never been an atheist, though. He said that in his very at the very end of his or the very end of his life. He said that he's never been an atheist in the sense of denying the existence of God or something like that. So
he called the Bible a damnable doctrine.
Well, right. Well, I mean, he may not have, but he may not have believed in the God of the Bible, but that doesn't mean that he didn't believe in like a deistic God or something like that. You know.
And fun trivia: the last sentence of the last page of Origin of the Species, he said his theory shows the grandeur of the Creator. Mm-hmm. So, at the very end of his book, if you ever see his book, that's his last sentence. But as he aged, in my opinion, I don't know. He would have been a great guy to hang out with. Don't get me wrong. But I believe as he got older, when he lost his daughter Anna, he was bitter and angry at God. His wife, who was a Christian, was extremely concerned for him. So, interesting man.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't know how God could create a dog through step. Even God couldn't create by step. Did he make the liver on Monday, the heart on Tuesday, the brain on Wednesday? Got to be all at once in a living thing. So, does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's too many systems in a dog or a human that happen by a step-by-step process.
Well, I appreciate it again, guys. David, Bill, you're always welcome on this channel. You always make for a really good debate discussion that always flies by. So, thanks so much, guys. I'll hand it over to Praise to shut it down for us. So once again, thanks so much. And